In the summer of 1889, a railway company printed a passenger map showing a city called Bellwether at the end of a branch line in northern Missouri. The proof is a surviving ticket ledger with 312 paid fares to that destination. But no land deed, city charter, construction permit, or census record can explain how a city that was never built still had residents, a school, a church, a doctor, and graves. That is where the problem begins. Not with a rumor, not with a ghost story, not with an old man remembering something after too many years. It begins with paper, a railway map, a fare table, a passenger ledger, and a town name printed with the confidence of something that was supposed to exist. Bellwether City. The map was found in 1976, beneath the county courthouse in Larkspur, Missouri. It had been folded inside a damaged tax ledger, between pages listing bridge costs and railway property assessments. The clerk who found it nearly threw it away. At first glance, it looked like every other 19th century passenger map. Thin blue rail lines, decorative borders, exaggerated towns, and carefully printed promises of prosperity. Railway maps in that period were not always honest. Companies printed towns before they were built. They drew rail lines before tracks were laid. They named depots and emptied fields to attract settlers and investors. So a city on a map did not prove anything. But Bellwether was different, because the map did not merely show a proposed stop. It showed streets. It showed a depot. It showed a church, a schoolhouse, a hotel, 2 mills, a freight yard, a water tower, 27 named streets arranged in a clean grid. At the edge of the map, beside the fare table, someone had stamped in purple ink, "Service active, May 1889. That stamp should have been impossible. The county had no record of Bellwether, no charter, no tax roll, no plat survey, no mayor, no sheriff, no construction contracts, no newspaper founding notice, nothing. And yet the railway sold tickets there. The ticket ledger survived in the same courthouse basement. Most of it was damaged by moisture, but one section remained readable. Between June 3rd and December 19th, 1889, the Midland, Western, and Prairie Railway sold 312 passenger fares to Bellwether City. Not freight, not survey crews, not construction workers. Passengers, men, women, and children. Some paid from Larkspur Junction, some from St. Louis, several from Kansas City. One ticket was purchased from Chicago and transferred through 2 lines before ending at Bellwether. The ledger did not explain who they were. It only proved they went, or at least someone took their money as if they could. For years, the map sat in a folder marked Unverified Railway Material. No one knew what to do with it. Historians dismissed it as a promotional error. The county archivist called it a speculative settlement that failed before incorporation. A railway enthusiast wrote a short article about it in 1981, concluding that Bellwether was probably a planned town that never attracted residents. That would have been the end, until the school letter was found. It was dated October 3rd, 1891, and written by a county school inspector named Edwin P. Mallory. The first line read, "I arrived in Bellwether on the evening train and found 36 children in attendance, though this office has no record of district numbers, 4 being lawfully established." 36 children, a teacher, a classroom, an evening train. Mallory's report described the schoolhouse in plain administrative language. 1 stove, 6 long desks, a slate board on the north wall, a leaking roof, a teacher named Clara Went, age 22, 36 students ranging from 6 to 14. He even listed the supplies needed for the next term: copybooks, chalk, 2 spelling primers, and a new bell rope. Then, near the bottom, he wrote the sentence that made the file impossible to ignore. "The residents insist Bellwether has stood since before the railway came, But no man there can tell me who surveyed the streets, who owns the lots, or why no deed has ever been filed. That is not how failed towns behave. A failed town leaves land speculation records. A failed town leaves investors. A failed town leaves newspaper advertisements. A failed town leaves lawsuits. Bellwether left something stranger. It left evidence of ordinary life without evidence of ordinary creation. The first official clue appears in a railway engineering memo from February 1888. The Midland, Western, and Prairie Railway was planning a northern branch line through timber country above Larkspur. The land was difficult. Heavy woods, limestone ridges, low marshes, and long stretches where property ownership was poorly recorded. The memo listed several proposed stops: Harrow Creek, Miller's Ford, North Larkspur, and then, in a different handwriting, one line had been added: Bellwether, existing grade? Confirm. Existing grade. A railway grade is a prepared track bed. A line cut, raised, leveled, or shaped before rails are laid. If an existing grade was found near Bellwether before Midland Western built its branch, then someone had prepared a rail route there earlier. But no earlier company claimed it. No local road survey mentioned it. No military map marked it. No private corporation filed it. Still, the engineers found something. Assistant engineer Jonah Rusk kept a field notebook during the 1888 survey. Most of his notes are dull and technical. Elevation, soil, timber, drainage, curve angles. But on April 11th, he wrote, entered timber north of mile 22. Found cut running through ridge, approximately 14 feet wide. Old but serviceable. Trees along both edges young. No record of prior work. 2 days later, stone culvert beneath grade, dry, mortar old. Workmanship better than county road work. Then, iron spikes recovered near grade. Pattern unfamiliar. Not Midland stock. These entries are careful. Rusk did not speculate. He did not write about a ghost city or hidden settlement. He simply recorded what he saw. A rail bed where no rail bed should have existed, old stonework where no one had built, and iron hardware that did not match his company's materials. On April 19th, the notebook becomes more unsettling. At end of cut, clearing opens, found stakes arranged as streets. Some lots fenced, no persons visible. Smoke seen west. That was before the railway opened, before the map was printed, before any official settlement. Yet the engineers found streets, or something pretending to be streets. By August 1888, construction crews reached the Bellwether clearing. A foreman's payroll note records, track laid to Bellwether clearing. Local men assisted with water and ties, paid cash, names not taken. Local men. From where? The nearest incorporated town was 12 miles south. The federal census from 1880 lists scattered farms in that region, but no population center. No town, no village, no settlement large enough to provide labor. And yet, men were there. They brought water. They helped with ties. They accepted money. They left no names. The first passenger train to Bellwether reportedly ran on May 28, 1889. There should have been a newspaper celebration. Railway companies loved ceremonies. They loved speeches, ribbons, photographs, brass bands, and articles about progress conquering the wilderness. But no newspaper announcement has been found. The Larkspur Gazette mentioned new rail service north of Harrow Creek, but never named Bellwether. The Kansas City papers ran Midland Western advertisements that listed Larkspur, Harrow Creek, and Miller's Ford. Bellwether does not appear, except on the map, and in the ticket ledger, and in the school inspector's letter, and then in the mail records. The postal ledger for Larkspur County contains a temporary entry for Bellwether Post Office, active from September 1889 to February 1894. No postmaster oath is attached. No building lease, no cancellation stamp has been found, but mail was routed there. A surviving complaint from January 1890, written by a farmer named Alton Greaves, says, "My 2 letters addressed to my brother at Bellwether were returned after 6 weeks, though the conductor told me he delivered the mailbag there himself." The brother's name was Samuel Greaves. He does not appear in county land records. He does not appear in the 1890 Veterans Index. He does not appear in tax records. But in 1892, his name appears in a church donation ledger from Bellwether. Samuel Greaves, 25 cents. Roof repair fund. That ledger came from a trunk donated to a historical society in 1934. The church itself is not recorded anywhere else. No denomination filed a report. No preacher was assigned. No building was insured. Yet the ledger lists offerings for 3 years. Names repeat. Families appear. Births are mentioned. Funeral collections are recorded. One page reads, "For burial of Mrs. L. Mercer and infant, $2.15 collected." There is no Mercer burial in county cemetery records. But in 1998, during a survey of abandoned farmland north of Larkspur, researchers found a small burial ground under a stand of cedar trees. Most of the wooden markers were gone. 3 stone markers survived. One bore the name Lydia Mercer, 1861-1891. Beside it was a smaller stone. No name. Only infant. That graveyard was not on any plat. No church was recorded nearby. No road led to it. But it was exactly where the 1889 map placed Bellwether's eastern cemetery. That is when the map stopped looking like a mistake. Because mistakes do not bury people. The largest collection of Bellwether documents comes from a railway conductor named Henry Vale. Vale worked the Midland Western Branch Line from 1889 to 1893. His grandson donated his papers to a private collector in the 1950s. And for decades, no one paid attention to them. They included schedule cards, wage receipts, personal letters, and a small black notebook. The notebook is the closest thing we have to an eyewitness account. Vale's first mention of Bellwether is ordinary. June 7th, 1889. Light passenger load. 4 off at Bellwether. Depot not finished. Platform serviceable. June 14th. Bellwether crowd larger. Women and children waiting. No freight agent present. June 21st. Took on crates of apples, 3 trunks, 1 sewing machine. No freight bill. Station man said paperwork follows. It did not. By July, Vale began noticing inconsistencies. July 3rd. Bellwether depot clock 15 minutes behind mine. Asked station man. He said our line runs fast there. July 9th. Town bell rang at noon as we arrived, though my watch said 11:42. July 15th. Passengers for Bellwether speak little on approach. 1 woman crossed herself before stepping down. These are small things, the kind of details a tired conductor might exaggerate. But then comes the entry from August 2nd. Fog in the clearing, the weather clear along entire line. Depot visible only when near platform. Town behind it appeared larger than map. Saw brick buildings where last week there were wooden fronts. Brick buildings in a town that was never built. A week later, no smoke from chimneys, though people in street. Sound seemed wrong. Wheels quiet on final quarter mile. And on August 30th, boy boarded without ticket. Said he lived on Ash Street. No Ash Street on company map. He gave me a coin dated 1874, worn smooth, not American. Returned it. He laughed and said, "Then you best not collect here." That entry was underlined twice. The company map listed Maple, Church, Depot, Mill, and North Street. No Ash Street. Yet the school inspector's report from 1891 lists 3 students living on Ash Street. So the boy was not inventing it. Or if he was, the town later invented it with him. By winter, Vale had become afraid of the stop. December 12th, 1889. Heavy snow south of Harrow. None at Bellwether. Ground damp, leaves green under platform. December 20th. Woman asked if the train goes back to 1889. I said yes, this being 1889. She seemed relieved. January 4th, 1890. Station lamp burning blue. Refused to remain while mail unloaded. There is a temptation to dismiss Vale's notebook as fiction, but his schedule records match the railway ledger. His handwriting matches signed payroll receipts. His dates align with weather reports from surrounding towns. And several names he mentions later appear in Bellwether's church and school documents. One of those names was Clara Went, the teacher. Her story may be the strangest of all. Clara was real. She was born in Carthage, Missouri, in 1869. In 1888, she received a teaching certificate. In April 1889, she wrote to her sister saying she had accepted a position in a new town north of Larkspur. She did not call it Bellwether in that letter. A month later, she did. Her letters survived because her sister kept them tied with ribbon in a cedar box. The early letters are cheerful. June 1889. The town is small, but the people are kind. The school is plain and needs glass in 2 windows. The children are shy, though some are far ahead in reading. July 1889. There are streets here that do not appear on the railway map. I asked Mr. Barlow about them, and he said the map is for visitors. I did not understand him. August 1889. The depot master advised me not to walk east after supper. I asked why. He said the old streets are confusing after dark. By October, Clara's tone changed. Some of the children give ages that cannot be correct. Little Ruth Mercer says she is 8, but she writes in a hand like a grown woman. Daniel Pike says his father fought at Shiloh, though his father looks younger than 30. Then, the school bell rings before I pull the rope. Only sometimes. The children do not react. The last letter from Clara is dated February 2nd, 1892. Dear Anna, I have tried to leave twice. The first time, the train did not stop, though I stood on the platform. The second time, Mr. Vale took my trunk aboard. But when I stepped into the carriage, I found myself looking out at the Bellwether depot again, as if the train had not moved. Do not show this letter to Mother. She will think me unwell. Perhaps I am. But I know this. Bellwether is not new. It is not old either. It is waiting. The people speak of dates the way others speak of weather. They ask what year the train has brought. If I do not come home by spring, tell Father I did not stay willingly. Clara Went, never returned to Carthage. Her family was told she had married and moved west. No marriage certificate has been found, no death record, no grave, but her name appears one final time in the Bellwether School Register, written in another hand. Miss Went absent. Class dismissed until further notice. The date was March 18th, 1892. The same day, the railway recorded an unexplained delay of 4 hours on the Bellwether branch. The official note says, obstruction near mile 27, cause not determined. Henry Vale's notebook says, track ended before Bellwether. Not damaged, ended. Rails stopped in grass. Men walked ahead and found depot 1 mile farther than yesterday. Refused to proceed. Superintendent ordered silence. That may be the most important entry in the entire case, because it suggests Bellwether was not merely hidden. It was changing location, not by ordinary movement, not by maps being corrected, but by distance itself failing to remain stable. The railway tried to solve the problem quietly. In April 1892, Midland Western sent surveyor Charles H. Brenner to remeasure the branch line. His official report is missing, but his draft notes survived. At mile 24, everything was normal. At mile 25, the measurements began to drift. At mile 26, he wrote, chain distance exceeds visual distance. Men report walking longer than measured. At mile 27, depot visible, bearing uncertain, compass unreliable. Sound of bell from town, though no wind. At the end, cannot reconcile line length with prior survey. Bellwether appears 1.6 miles beyond map terminus without additional track laid. That is impossible. A train cannot travel 1.6 miles beyond the end of a track unless the track exists. But Brenner's team found no additional construction records, no rails purchased, no ties built, no grading paid, no right-of-way acquired. And yet the train reached the depot. In May 1892, the company changed the public schedule. Bellwether disappeared from newspaper advertisements, but tickets continued to be sold privately at the Larkspur Junction office. The fare table was removed from new maps. The old maps were recalled. A surviving internal memo says, all passenger materials showing Bellwether terminus are to be withdrawn and replaced. Do not discuss reason with public agents. Most copies vanished. That is why the 1889 map found in the courthouse matters. It may be one of the few that escaped recall. By 1893, Bellwether had become a problem the railway could no longer contain. Freight vanished. Passengers complained of arriving late or not arriving at all. One woman, Mrs. Eleanor Pike, purchased a return ticket from Bellwether to Larkspur in June 1893. Her ticket was stamped in Bellwether. But Larkspur records show she boarded the return train 3 days before the outgoing ticket was sold. Another passenger, Martin Kell, wrote that he spent one night at the Bellwether Hotel and returned to find his beard noticeably longer and his watch stopped. A doctor named Amos Rell, whose name appears in 3 Bellwether death certificates, sent a bill to the county for medical services rendered to residents outside recognized jurisdiction. The county refused payment, writing, "No such municipality exists." Rell replied, "Then kindly explain where I have been called these past 4 years." His reply is still in the file. The county never answered. The final recorded train to Bellwether left Larkspur Junction on October 9th, 1894. There were 7 passengers aboard, a traveling salesman, a widow and her daughter, 2 railway men, a man listed only as J. Mercer, and a priest. The train was scheduled to return by evening. It returned the next morning, without passengers. The engineer claimed the train reached dense fog near mile 27 and slowed. The depot lamp appeared ahead. Then the fog thickened. The bell rang, and the platform emerged on the wrong side of the track. Not the left side, not the right side. Above. He said the depot appeared above them as if the train were passing below a street. The fireman refused to confirm this, but he quit the railway the next day. The conductor's report contains one sentence. No passengers reboarded at Bellwether. Town not visible after departure. After that, service was suspended. The branch line north of Harrow Creek was abandoned in 1895. The tracks were pulled up for scrap in 1898. The company merged with another railway and eventually disappeared into a larger corporation. Bellwether became a mistake again, a map error, a failed town, a clerical confusion, but people kept finding pieces. In 1911, a farmer plowing north of Larkspur uncovered a cast iron street sign reading Ash Street. No Ash Street existed in the county. In 1936, children playing near the old rail grade found a hotel room key stamped, Bellwether House, room 6. No Bellwether House appears in business directories. In 1954, a telephone repair crew found a line of brick foundations beneath a pasture where no buildings had ever been recorded. In 1976, the map was found. Then the school letter. Then the conductor's notebook. Then Clara Wentz letters. Each discovery made the comfortable explanation harder to maintain. Today, if you walk the old Midland Western grade, there's almost nothing left. A shallow raised line through trees, stone culverts, rusted spikes after heavy rain. A few cedar trees around the unmarked cemetery. No depot, no schoolhouse, no church, no hotel, no city. But the ground does not feel empty. That is what people say. They say the woods become quiet near mile 27. They say compasses drift. They say fog gathers even on clear days. They say, if you stand there at dusk, you can sometimes hear a bell. Not close, not far, just misplaced, as if sound is arriving from a town that has not decided whether it still exists. The last document in the Bellwether file is not from the 19th century. It is dated 1983. A graduate student named Paul Renner attempted to locate the city using the 1889 map, railway surveys, and county property lines. He spent 3 weekends in the field. His first 2 reports are ordinary. He found the grade. He found a culvert. He found disturbed soil where the depot might have stood. His 3rd report was never formally submitted. A carbon copy was found in his advisor's papers after his death. It reads, I followed the old grade past mile 27 at 5:20 p.m. Fog present though sky clear. Heard bell. Located rectangular depression consistent with depot foundation. Continued west and found street grid visible under grass. At least 5 roads. Possible cellar stones. Saw light in the upper window of structure approximately 200 yards ahead. Structure not present on approach. Then met woman in dark dress near fence line. She asked whether the train had come from Larkspur or from the year after the fire. I asked what fire. She said, then it hasn't happened yet. Renner never published on Bellwether. He left the university the following semester. When asked years later why he abandoned the project, he reportedly said, because maps are only safe when places stay where they are. That quote cannot be verified, but it fits the file. Because Bellwether was never just a city that disappeared. It was a city that official history insists was never there in the first place. And that is harder to explain. A vanished city can be blamed on fire, flood, economic failure, disease, railway collapse. But a city that was never built should not leave behind children's names, school reports, church ledgers, graves, passenger tickets, street signs, and letters from a teacher begging to come home. The map from 1889 still exists. So does the fare table. So does the ticket ledger. So does the school inspector's report. So do the graves. Each one is small enough to dismiss alone. Together, they ask a question no archive has answered. If Bellwether was never built, who lived there? Maybe it was a railway fraud. Maybe Midland Western invented a city to sell land, and scattered documents later turned fiction into confusion. Maybe the school letter was misfiled. Maybe Clara Went taught somewhere else. Maybe Henry Vale was unstable. Maybe the graves belonged to a forgotten farm family. Maybe every piece has a reasonable explanation waiting in some dusty box no one has opened yet. That is possible. But one thing remains. On the back of the 1889 railway map, written in pencil, there is a note in handwriting no one has identified. It says, do not take the evening train to Bellwether. It arrives before it leaves. No signature, no date, no explanation, just a warning. And beneath it, almost erased by time, one more line. The city is not on the map. The map is on the city. That is where the record ends. Not with proof, not with certainty, but with a printed railway map, a city without a birth certificate, and hundreds of people who seem to have passed through a place the county says never existed. Somewhere north of Larkspur, the old grade still cuts through the trees. Most days it leads nowhere, just brush, stone, mud, and silence. But if the old accounts are true, there were evenings when the fog came down. The bell rang once, and the track continued farther than it should. A depot lamp appeared in the gray. A platform waited. A woman in a dark dress stood beside a fence, and beyond her, street after street stretched into a city that no one built, no one owned, and no government ever admitted was there. Maybe Bellwether failed. Maybe it was erased. Or maybe it is still there, just not always in the same year as the rest of us. And if that is true, then the old railway map was not showing a mistake. It was showing a schedule, a place, a warning, a city that should not have had residents, but did.